Fair enough. I'm here. Fine.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom, everybody. Shalom, everybody from Israel.
Hello. All right. My name is Daniela, Yisrael, and I'm excited. All right, let's try that again. All right, my name is Daniela Yisrael, and I'm so excited to start this episode 18 of Speak Up Am Yisrael. This is a series, so if you want to catch up on any of the previous episodes, please go ahead and subscribe at Speak Up Am Yisrael, and you can engage in the campaign at any time by hashtag Speak Up Am Yisrael. So today our episode is going to be regarding Bnei Yisrael and the Noahide. We're going to be interviewing Rav Chaim Goldberg. I'm very excited. So without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce Rav Chaim Goldberg. Shalom, Rav. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Good evening, everybody. Good evening from Jerusalem. It's very important because Jerusalem is a place of peace. Even though in our days today we are fighting against evil, we're still wishing to have peace all over the world. And welcome, everybody. My name is Chaim Goldberg, and I'm here. I'm very excited to be here with everybody. And please, Daniela.
Yes. So, Rabbi, if you would please, if the Rav would tell us a little bit about your journey and how you ended up working for the World Noahide Center, please.
Basically, I will say it like that. I will start like that. Okay, I'm usually worked all of my life almost. I worked as a educator. I was a high school principal for 15 years, Rosh Yeshiva in Israel, and educated people, young people to be, on the path, on the way that God is asking us to do here in Israel. And restoring back the Hebrew nation back in their homeland. Something happened after a few years something happened after a few years something like 10 years ago, something in my personal life that I've decided to do something much more, I will say, with impact, with the education of the world. And since then, I met Rabbi Sherki, and with him, he led us basically for this thing. And since then, we're working all over the world with trying to educate people, to get closer to God, to get connected with the Hebrew nation, and to bring the world to a better place.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. So I myself am a convert and spent some time in the Noahide community before that journey. So the Noahide community is very dear to my heart. And I learned actually from the center before conversion and coming through that process. So it was a huge part of my own journey. So I have found a lot of people don't know what a Noahide is or what the Sheva Mitzvot are. I'm surprised even this week at my Shabbat table, people were saying, wait, what's a Noahide? Mazeh. So please tell us, what is that? And what are the Sheva Mitzvot? What does that look like?
Okay, I will say it like that. And this is one of the most amazing things that I think that people don't really realize, especially nowadays, in the modern days, I will say it like that. In the ancient days, okay, where the Torah was written down, but now was given to us, not written down, was given to us. And we had also we have a lot of text from the ancient days. Most of except for the Hebrew nation, we are the only nation who said that everything started with one person, with Adam. Even his wife came from him. And the meaning of this is that everybody are possible, or there is a possibility of living together. While the rest of the world are saying all the time that they are the most important people and the rest are supposed to be the slaves, or they are the masters for others. So the Hebrew nation is really believing that everybody came from one person. Therefore, we can be all of us brothers together. And God gave basically to Adam 6 mitzvot. Okay, when Noah, he didn't let Adam, by the way, to eat any meat, any animal. When Noah, after the ark, he saved all the animals. So God also gave him the possibility to eat the animals. And then Noah got also another commandment. And those are the most fundamental 7 commandments that we have. And after that, when Moses came and he gave us the Torah, okay, in Mount Sinai, he didn't give us, God gave us a Torah in Mount Sinai. God gave us the complete, full version of the 613 commandments. But we can look on this in this way. I will say it like that, and this is something maybe a question for later on, but I will say this already now. It's like there are all sorts of ways how to transport people from one place to another place. It could be that they will go by foot. It could be that they will go by bicycles, by motorcycles, cars, trains, and maybe boat, and then also airplane. Each one of those things need to have someone that will lead them, you know. In the airplane, it's a captain who is leading the airplane. In the boat, it's the captain who is leading the boat. The train, we have also the one who is driving the first part of the train. And this way we have, you know, all sorts of different, I will say, skills. Now, we can't say that the pilot on the airplane is a better person than the one who is driving the truck. But each one of them have different skills and different, I will say, tune of what he needs to know.
Okay. The
Hebrew nation is very tuned with God, so they need to have 613 commandments. The rest of the world, it's enough for them to have the 7 commandments. Now, it's not only 7, by the way. People don't know that in Masechet Chulin, the sages are saying that there are 31 mitzvot. Okay, but we'll speak about this maybe later. But this is more or less the structure. The structure is that we are all one big family. And just like the human body, that is the heart, that is very important, and we are working very hard that nothing will damage the heart. And we have also, on the other side, we have the kidneys, and we have the legs, and we have the hands. So we have all sorts of parts, but we are one unit on the same side. The Hebrew nation is the heart of the nations in regarding the connection with God. And the rest of the world are different parts that together we are one unit, all of us together. And there is a mission for the Hebrew people.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So one thing I noticed in my journey is there's a lot of different opinions out there or views out there of what a Noahide is. There's a lot of misconceptions and confusion. What is a Noahide? What do they do? What don't they do? Is it a religion? What is it? So how does the Rav address that?
I will address it in this way. I think, and this is one of the, also another very big misunderstanding that is. Let's start with the Hebrew nation. The Hebrew nation is a nation or religion? And there's a lot of misconfusion with this issue by itself. Let's talk for a moment about what's happening when the Hebrew people are going out from Egypt. We have, if you will look close on the Genesis book, Sefer Bereshit, you will see that our fathers never spoke about any religion. They spoke, or they got from God a blessing that they will have a nation, okay, and that their kids will become a nation, and that they will inherit it. They will be living in the Hebrew land, Eretz Yisrael. So the people who went out with Moses, there were 2 kinds of people. There were those who went out with Moses because he promised them to bring them to the promised land, as our forefathers told us. And there was those who went after Moses because he is a big master, you know, he did a lot of miracles. And when Moses vanished, you know, went for 40 days to the mountain in Mount Sinai and didn't came back, those people who went after Moses, they built the golden calf and they said, those are the gods of Israel that replaced Moses. While the rest of the Hebrew people, they were not in this issue of the golden calf. And since then, we have those people who think that the Hebrew nation is religion, okay? And those people who understand that we are a nation that have also some sort of concepts that we are doing. And if I will dive inside for a moment, I will take for a moment the Shabbat as an example. If we will look at the Shabbat as a commandment of the Shabbat, we will see that in the Bible itself, it says in 10 Commandments, in Exodus, and also in Deuteronomy, it says 3 reasons why we keep the Shabbat. The first one is that you need to rest. You, your wife, your kids, everybody, you need to rest. So this is a personal level. There's another explanation. You remember that you were slave in Egypt. Therefore, do 1 day of rest. So you remember that you are free with your timing. Okay, you're not anymore slave. So this is a national explanation. And there's also another explanation that God is saying to us. You know how many days I created, in how many days I created this world? In 6 days. In the 7th day, I stopped. Therefore, the Shabbat is something that is reminding us, or it's a witness that we're doing a witness in action, that we accepting that God created this world. But this is already a universal understanding of this mitzvah. Now we say that and I'm telling you a secret, nobody can listen to this, right? I'm telling you a secret. All of the mitzvot have those 3 levels: the personal level, the national level, and the universal level. And this is what people don't realize. We are not just a religion. We are much more than that. We are something as a universal side as a nation. Now, when you're speaking about the Noahide is a way of getting related with God.
Got it.
It's true that, I will say it like that, there are different nations, and each nation have different, I will say, side of this 70 nations that we have in this world. Therefore, we have some of the nations are taking positive ideas how to get related with God. Again, according with the Jewish rabbis, they need to do this, but this is something that we'll speak maybe later.
Amazing.
So it's not religion. It's more the right relation with God.
Beautiful. What do you think of the Sheva mitzvot, of the 7 laws? Do you find the most difficult, or the one that the majority of the world struggle with today?
First of all, the world progressed very nicely in the last few thousand years, and today most of the people are not killing others just for the good of sake, and most of the people also are not doing sexual harassment and those things, most of the people. So I will say that the world came to a much higher level of moral behavior. The main question, and I think that this is the most hardest part of what's happening today, is not between those 7 mitzvot, what is the most hardest one? The main question is the concept. And let me explain this for a moment. Okay. If someone, Immanuel Kant, for example, Immanuel Kant, we all know Immanuel Kant. He was a great philosopher. He broke down a lot of the ideas before him. He was like the Copernicus in the science. Yes. Immanuel Kant was a Copernicus in the philosophy side. And one of the things that he said, the German community are so in high level, they won't kill anymore. And we all know what happened a few hundred years later, with the Holocaust and everything else. So by the way, I'm saying this today with much more calm way, because the Germany today is doing a lot of repentance for what they did 80 years ago, with the behavior that they're doing with the Hebrew nation today, with all of the war that we have. But what I want to say is that the question is, why exactly people are not killing? If they're not killing, or they're not stealing, or they're not doing all those 7 mitzvot, commandments, because they think that it's reasonable not to do that, so they have no connection with God. They are admiring and they are worshiping their mind, or the human mind. And the most hardest thing today, especially with the people who are moving towards these 7 laws of Noah, is to realize that we're doing those things because God commanded us. And this is one of the ways of getting connected with God. This is, I think, one of the most biggest struggles that we see today with the people, where they need to move, to shift, and especially in the Western world, where we admire very much the logic, the reason that we have. And suddenly we're saying to
Yes.
ourselves, just a moment, be with a bit of humility in front of God and understand that you're doing those things. It's also reasonable to do them, but you're doing them especially because God asked you to do that. And this is one of
Got
the
it.
things that also the Maimonides is expressing. He's saying that you can do this because it's a smart thing to do, and then you're one of the smart people of the nations. But you can do this because you want to be connected with God. And this, I think,
Yes.
is the most hardest thing for people to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was just recently reading Harav Kapak's commentary on the Perush of Rambam, and he was saying, if you're doing the mitzvot for any reason other than to serve Hashem, you're serving yourself. It's idol worship of self.
Exactly.
Worship self.
Exactly
So
the point.
I was just learning that, and so beautiful that you brought that in. So tell me, what is some of the work that you guys are doing at the World Noahide Center right now?
First of all, we have all over the world, okay? We can see here, Lisette, for example, that I think we have connection, Lisette and me, almost 10 years, if I will dive inside. But Lisette is from the Dominican Republic, okay? From the area of the South America. We have communities, first of all, we have, wow, from where to start? We have all over the world, I would say like that. We have also here, we have also people from India that stayed awake for very, it's very late at night for them, but they've heard that these sessions, so they came inside. We have more than 15 languages. In 15 languages, almost all over the world, we have people that are giving lectures, explaining this thing of the seven Noahide concept, and that we can become one big unity family. And one of the things that we're doing, and maybe I will say it because this is one of the highlights, we do from time to time, we do this thing of accepting the 7 laws of Noah. There is a possibility on our side to do this by self-declaration, okay? You're declaring for yourself that you are Noahide, but and then you're getting a very nice certificate and everything else. It's like what the Ritva said that you're supposed to do. But we have also the way of the Maimonides, and then we joining together in a Zoom. Okay. And in the Zoom meeting, sitting something like 20 or 25 people, and they accepting the 7 laws of Noah in front of 3 rabbis in 6 or 7 or 8 languages in the room. And it's amazing to see that. Now, it's just the opposite of the Babylon Tower, because in the Babylon Tower, it says that they were all in one language, but inside the heart, each one of them, each one of them had different things inside himself. And here we have just the opposite. We're speaking in different languages, but we are all aiming to one God. So it's just, we're doing repentance for the Babylon Tower, and we are joining together. And people, we need to see that, we have it on the internet also, but you see that people are crying there, it's really touching, and especially suddenly to realize that we have possibility of having groups and communities all over the world that are getting together, even though they're speaking in different languages. We're helping communities to grow up, to become communities, to gather people around, leaders. We wish to also to organize a seminar for leaders here in Israel. Unfortunately, we had the corona and now we have the war, so it will take a bit of time, but it will happen. We hope to have a very big conference in Israel, in Jerusalem, in the next year. But those are we're trying to connect as much people as possible under the umbrella of Jerusalem. I'll say it like that. And this is what the prophet said, that everything will come out from Jerusalem. The word of God will come out from Jerusalem.
Beautiful, beautiful. So speaking of the war, since October 7th, we've definitely seen a international either support or against, our country. And so what have you seen in the way of the Noahide community? What have we seen in terms of them taking a stand for us publicly, communally? What does that look like? Publicly, I've seen more of the Christian people making stands and things like that. But what does the Noahide community look like since October 7th?
First of all, it's amazing to speak about October 7th, but I will speak. I'm not going to hide the ideas and opinions and everything else that we have, and we said already a few times, but I will share it also here. Let me start that there are some of the Noahide, but very minority people who got confused. When I'm saying got confused, I will say the most extreme confused that I saw, okay? Someone got in touch with me, again, someone that I know, not from today or from yesterday. And he started to say to me, listen, the best thing is that you will stop thinking of being a country and you will be only a religion and come next to me. I will buy for you a house next to me. Okay? Come to the United States.
Yes.
Well, my parents left the United States 60 years ago. It's okay. I'm not going to go back. But I said to him, if I will do so, I need also to erase all the part of Deuteronomy. I need to erase all this part from the Bible, because Deuteronomy is speaking about us coming to the Hebrew land with everything. And also what was promised to Abraham, that he will become a great nation. I need to erase it. And I'm not going to erase anything from the Bible. But this is really the minority. The most of the Noahide people, we sending from the beginning of this war, we're sending all sorts of ideas. And people are translating this to 12, 13, 14 languages and spreading it also in their, I will say, not only in the Noahide thing, they're also spreading it in their ways. This is one thing that we're doing, and really they're helping a lot. Another thing that is happening, and this is happening really in the last few weeks, okay? We're working with the Christian world. It's a very large world, almost 2 billion people. We're working also in the Hindu world. We have a few languages there in China, in India, we have communities, whatever it is. And because of the war, we decided that it's a time also to start to speak with the Arab world. So we prepared also a special note, special letter to the Arabs community. And Rabbi Sherki was invited already to the Emirates, and they spoke there. Today we also published what was there also. And it's amazing to see that there is a lot of I will say, leaders and communities of the Arabs, not only in the Emirates, by the way, also people from Iran that are sitting in London are speaking with us, people from New Zealand are speaking with us, Arabs, we're speaking about Arabs and leaders and doctors, whatever it is. And it's amazing to see that they also realize today, or they also understand that we're in a stage, I will say it like that, we're in a stage where we need to decide where the history is going on. Is it going on to good or evil? I will say it like that. Let's go for a moment to the Noah Ark, okay? God have decided in the age of Noah, in the era of Noah, that the world, because Noah is here now, the world came to a stage where we can move ahead to wipe off the evil side of the world and to continue the progress of the world, the history of the world with Noah and his destiny. Let's go to Abraham time, Abraham. God saw that Abraham came here and he will teach his destinies, his kids, to be in the right way, righteous way, and the kindness, as it says in Genesis chapter 18. And because of that, he decided to wipe off Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes. Right? Now, the Hebrew nation came to Israel 75 years ago, and most probably we came to a stage where we can stand and to decide that we're taking out more evil from this world. Unfortunately, we need to wake up, okay? We had a very traumatic situation in the 7th of October, Chag Simchat Torah, but it's not saying that we're not going to do this. And the world is supposed to decide who is standing with the good side and who is standing with the evil side. Yeah. We're not going to decide for people, but I'm sure with the history that we know for the Hebrew nation, that the Hebrew people are going to win. Now already, there are a few people, very big master people, the military people from the United States that are saying that we are much more progress than they thought in those months. But I'm not
Yes.
going to speak about the specific. I'm going to say in general. In general, we're in a situation where the world's supposed to ask himself, are we going to be in the good side or in the evil side? The Hebrew nation came back to the homeland for bringing back the prophecy, for building up the Mount Temple, to do the connection, the right connection with God.
Right.
And nobody really can stop it. Okay, God is going on this progress.
No,
Even
for sure.
The German, I will say it differently. Okay, if it's okay, I can say another sentence.
Yes.
I was in Lithuania 2-3 years ago, and one of the leaders there that invited me, I was also in the parliament in Lithuania, a lot of things there. And one of the leaders there, he said to me, you, the Jews, you won the war, the Second World War. I said to him, how can you say there's something like that? You know, I have in my family a lot of people that didn't survive this war. He said to me, no, you don't understand. There was a 5 years that all of the environment of Europe was to kill Jews. Nobody had any questions about this. And more than that, you could have gone on the street. If you saw a Jew and you killed him, nobody would ask you any question. And even though that there was a systematic way of trying to kill all the Jews of the world, 75 years after that, or 70, it was 72 years, you know, we are begging the Jewish people to come to teach us all sorts of ideas how to live, all the Bible, all those things, and you have a strong country. So who won?
Yeah.
Now, at the beginning of this war, by the way, in the first 2 weeks of this war, Germany, big Germany, bought from Israel in something like $3 billion, you know, something like that, missiles that will defend Germany. And from whom they bought it? From Israel. So who won? And now, with the history of the Hebrew nation along the 4,000 years ago, I'm sure that also this battle we're going to win.
Yeah.
So the question of the world is supposed to ask himself, are they going to be in the good side or in the evil side?
Yes. Yeah, and I was impressed to see that Germany publicly made a statement in the international forum in defense of us, that what we are doing is self-defense and what they did was genocide, you know, in the past to our people. And that's just a huge movement in my mind of the consciousness of the non-Jewish communities and populations that's shifted that far.
You're more than right. And I will say another very important thing. First of all, I will say it's a true story. You know, the Air Force, the head of the Air Force of Germany came to Israel, and he also donated blood for the soldiers. Now, what I want to say is that Germany is doing repentance for what they did 80 years ago. And one of the most important things that we need to learn here is that you can do repentance.
Yes.
It's not only, and I'm asking myself, you know, the grandson of the Hamas people, who of them is going to donate blood to Israel another 80 years?
Yeah.
The good is going to win in this world. That's it. We're not going to go back about this point.
Beautiful. With the Bnei Noah community, are there any like former Christians, former missionaries? I know myself, I came from a Christian missionary background originally, and then in my early 30s found out that my father was Jewish and my family were Anosim from Spain, and went on a whole and found myself now in Sfat, Israel. Like I live in Sfat full time, so Baruch Hashem, I can hear those IDF airplanes that you're talking about overhead, keeping us safe right now. But what do you think? What do you think the power of the Noahide community, based on what they know about, like, you know, previous faiths and things like that? What role do you think that they play in protecting like the Jewish people and with missionary activity and things like that?
So first of all, we do have a lot, not a small amount, a very huge amount of former Christians, leaders. Okay.
Yes.
People that were 30 and 40 years as missionaries, as Christian leaders. and they left everything. I was in South Africa 7 years ago, and I was invited by a former leader of the Christians, and he left the Christianity and became a Noahide, and he invited us to give their seminar, and then he brought his friends. Now, his friends sneaked inside to the hotel, that no one will see them, and came inside to speak with us in our room.
Oh, wow.
Why? Because they said, look, I'm almost in the time of the retirement, and if I will say today that I'm leaving Christianity, I will lose all my pensions. So another 2-3 years, and then I will leave everything. But we have a lot of people, and especially people who are knowledgeable. And I will say, and I will explain to you why. First of all, we need to understand what's happening. In the 12th century, the head of the Christians decided that it's not allowed to learn the Old Testament. And in the 16th century, we know the version of the King James version, you know, that the King James, he put 47 people or something like that they will translate the Bible. Now, the Hebrew Bible, what we call the Tanakh, have a lot of contradictions for the New Testament that was written down something like 800 years after the Bible. Okay, and this is why they decided that they're not allowed to read the Old Testament. Now, what really happened 100 years ago, when the Hebrew people decided that it's the time to come back to their homeland? This is where the Christian world started to ask a lot of questions themselves, because it's already being written down by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, also one of the big philosophers of the education from France. In the 17th century, he said that all the priests in France, they are sure that everything that Isaiah said in his prophecies is speaking about Jesus. And in the same certainty, the Hebrew people are sure, or the rabbis, that he is not speaking about, that all of those prophecies are not speaking about Jesus, but speaking about the Messiah that will come. And then Jean-Jacques Rousseau is saying, we need to wait until the Hebrew nation will come back to their homeland, and we'll have universities, and we'll speak loud and clear, and then we will be able to judge who is right. Now, what happened is that in the last 100 years, when the Hebrew people started to come back to their homeland, and we said that this is how we read it in the Bible, suddenly in the Christian world, there was a lot of, I will say, shaken up of all of the concepts. And they started to ask themselves, who is reading the Bible? We don't know the Bible. The Bible is not only stories, something much more profound inside there. And it's with a lot of contradictions to other things. And this is why, especially people who are very knowledgeable in the New Testament, when they're starting to get exposed to the Old Testament, they have a lot of questions. And then we're coming to another stage that people need to realize. And you did conversion, so you know that. In the Hebrew, in the faith, okay, of the Christian world, if you ask him questions, you don't believe enough.
Yes.
In the Hebrew tradition, as more of you asking, you understand more and you believe more. And suddenly, people started to ask questions, not in the Hebrew tradition, you know, in their places. And the answers that they got were, be quiet, silent, you don't understand. So they started to approach the Hebrew rabbis, and suddenly, not only they're getting answers, but they're also getting permission to ask questions. And in Leila Seder, how do we start the Leila Seder? You know, the biggest night that we have in Passover, that we need to ask questions.
The children ask questions.
We must ask questions. Even if he is smart and he understands everything, you need to ask. Okay, we're starting with questions and giving answers. And this is the way of, I will say, of knowledging and in behind the scenes, I will say, the most profound understanding of this is that God created us as one unit. So also the mind, also the speech, and also the actions need to have relation one with each other. They can't be contradicted. We can't say God created also the reason. God also created our brain. We can't say the brain side with the most important thing that is giving us meaning to life. The faith, this is put aside. Don't use it. You can use the brain for everything that you have in university, but in the faith, this is the most important thing in your life. Giving you meaning to life, put it aside. It's not working. So people are starting to ask, and we have a lot of former Christians people. What is their role? First of all, a lot of them, let's say the truth, okay? People think that they are nuts. How can they leave Jesus aside suddenly? And they're saying to them, but we see the light, it's without Jesus. Oh, no, you're nuts. We don't want to speak with you anymore. It's not so easy. For some of them, it's not so easy. On the other side, they're part also of the leaders that we have, and they're doing a lot of very good work. Some of them are teaching, preaching, I don't know how to say those words, the best way. Melamdim, teaching, people that are very knowledgeable, and some of them speaking and teaching and trying to bring more people closer to this understanding. Okay, they're speaking with their friends and everything. In the United States, there is a very big movement, I will say, towards this thing of the Noahide. Not only in the United States, but I'm saying in the United States, we see a lot of former Christians that are teaching and taking a more role action of this thing. I will say another thing. I admire people. I will say two stories from India.
Yes, please.
One of them is we met someone that is a leader today in India, and he was a high priest with more than 3,000, I will say, people
followers.
That he was leading, followers.
Yeah.
And he decided that it's all wrong, and he became a Noahide. He's learning very hard, and he left it, and he doesn't have today 3,000 followers. He has much less. Now, I assume that he will come back to the 3,000 and more than that, but it's a journey. And to think for a moment about someone that had so many people around him, and suddenly he is leaving everything for the truth, I admire him. This is the first story. The second story, I will say, another very important person who wrote down, he was a leader also in the Christian world in India, and he wrote more than 40 books in English, in his language. It's not in English, in Telugu, okay? More than 40 books.
Wow.
And he sold them, in millions and everything else.
Yeah.
And when he realized that everything is a lie, you know what he told us? He told us like that. He said, I grew up in a Hindu family where there are 3 million gods. So I said to myself, why 3 millions? It's enough 3. And then I said to myself, I'm not going to be Christian. Why do I need 3? What is the difference between 3 and 3 million? Let's go to the source, the one. And then he came to become a Noahide, and he burned all the 50 books.
Wow.
He did a big ceremony. And again, he's a person that was a very known person there. And today he is writing and translating things in his language for the Noahide. So asking what is the role that they're doing. So on one side, he didn't come yet back to his main power that he was. And this is why I admire those people. When they see the truth and they're sticking to the truth and they're building up again from the beginning, you need for this a lot of, we'll say, of power, of enlightenment from inside. And this is the power that you're getting from God, who is building up the world from nothing. So you have the power of that. And those are people that I really admire, but we have a few stories like that.
Amazing, amazing. So I worked for a few years with the Noahide movement in America before making Aliyah, and I was doing like relationship coaching and teaching dating
with the Shebeki, Sharon.
Yes, with Shara. And
send her my regards. Okay, very nice family. I really like them.
Big family, yes. And so I was working with them of just teaching the principles of not necessarily shomer nagia from a halacha standpoint, but just a wisdom standpoint to get to know someone before we get mixed up with emotions and chemicals in our brain and all of those things. And so that's been really beautiful. I've seen them really building community and having conventions, and that's growing, and they're working on a center. She now has a podcast. And I think the main focus for them has been to spread morality, to spread doing good in the world and support of the Jewish people, which I found really beautiful. What
Just
I
a
did,
moment. I have a very good story. I have a
Yes,
very good
please.
story for that, if it's okay.
Yeah.
I was in Lithuania also. We gave there also seminars and everything else. And then I met someone there, and he urged me that he really wants to do conversion. Now, he is not like you, that you have, we call this Zera Yisrael, roots from Hebrew, the Hebrew community. He is not like that. So I said to him, look, for the last 20 years, you're teaching people not from the halachic way, but as you said, from the moral way.
Yeah.
You're helping couples and you're teaching people how to behave in the way of the Jewish way of building up relationship.
Yeah.
And you learned it from rabbis and everything else, but you're not saying to your people in Lithuania that this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, I saw in the pictures that you also, from time to time, gathering more than 7,000 people in the stadium, and you're teaching them. You know,
Wow.
you're a big figure there. I said
Yeah.
to him, look, let's say, for example, that you're going to do conversion. What will happen? Who is going to speak with the people in Lithuania? They, from their perspective, you crossed the lines, and they're not going to speak with you anymore.
Yeah.
And who is going to speak with them? I'm not
Yeah.
Lithuanian people. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, they ran away from Lithuania. But
Yeah.
I don't know the language. I'm not native in Lithuania. You are leader in Lithuania.
Yeah.
He said to me that I came to him like an angel, you know. I opened
Yeah.
his mind. So since then, he likes very much the Hebrew nation. He's coming to visit here and everything else. But he have calmed down with the understanding that his mission is not to become Jewish. His mission is to lead, you know, in his country as part
Yeah.
of the 7 Noahide Laws, and you know, as a connection with the Hebrew nation. So
Beautiful.
Okay.
So I did notice a lot. So when I was doing a support group. I was working with Rabbi Tove Singer and Rav Skovak in helping people emotionally process. I'm a social worker by trade, so I do therapy, and I was helping them grieve the loss of Christianity and, you know, what they had believed for most of their life. But I found a lot of missionaries kind of sneaking into those groups and trying to speak. What has been your experience within the Noahide Center of missionaries trying to kind of infiltrate or get in? Have you guys experienced any of that?
First of all, I will say that Rabbi Tuvia Singer and Rabbi Skobach, we have very good connections. We are working together, we're speaking together, everything else, you know. And also with Sarah Shabeki, we had a lot of connections. I will say like that. We do have from time to time issues, discussions with those people.
Mm-hmm.
Let me say a principle that we are working very hard, especially us, the rabbis from Jerusalem. Okay, I'll say it like that. There is a way how to fight against the darkness.
Yes.
And it's not by taking stones and throwing on the darkness. It's by lighting the candles. We are very stricted, I will say it like that, with not going inside to all sorts of arguments.
Okay.
If you still believe in Jesus and everything else, usually what I'm saying to people, fine. If you want to learn from us the Torah, the Bible, how we're teaching it, you can come and learn it. Don't try to convince us differently. We're not going to go there. If you will bother the people from learning, and you're not going to learn, you're coming to preach us, so we won't let you inside to the room.
Yes.
But except for that, if you want to learn what we say, you're more than welcome.
Yeah.
If you don't want to become a Noahide, it's also okay. Usually what I'm saying, also a bit teasing, you know, the people, saying to him, it's okay, we have patience, your kids or your grandkids, they will become Noahide.
Beautiful.
Okay, but we're not going to fight. So on one side, you're more than invited to listen how we're teaching the Torah and all the principles with all of the oral Torah that we have, and with all of the, I will say, the wisdom that we hold since Moses, till today. They are more than welcome to come and learn. If you want to try to move, to drive people to start to ask, to start to bother, so don't come inside. But you're more than welcome to come and listen. And we're not going to argue with you. We're not going to convince you. We're not going nothing. If you don't want to get to come to this path, it's a path. By the way, this is what from time to time I'm giving an example. Lisette, you with us, and I don't know if she's with us. We have people that sometimes they are around us. I'm calling it, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and only then they're deciding to do the step of doing this pledge.
Yes.
Yesterday, I got an SMS from someone that I know for the last year. Okay, and only now she wants to do the pledge and to come, to come to the next stage.
Yeah.
So we're not, we're not pushing, we're not forcing people. The way of fighting against the darkness is to bring more light. People will know the truth have its own way. People know when other people are speaking the truth. This is how we're working. And we don't, I will conclude this question like that, okay? Rabbi Tuvia is saying, we organized the Brit Shalom book and Brit Olam book. One book is the prayer book for Noahide, and the other one is the halachot, the Shulchan Aruch for Noahide. And those two things, Rabbi Skobach saw this, and Rabbi Tuvia Zinger saw this. We have nominations from the chief rabbis and from the Rabbi of Jerusalem, from other rabbis.
Beautiful.
Rabbi Skobach and Rabbi Tuvia Zinger, they're doing a very good job and very well done job.
On their end,
I admire them with a lot of things that they're doing. And when I met Rabbi Tuvia Zinger, so one of the things that he said to me, he said, a lot of people are asking me all the time, okay, so I left the Christianity, but what else? What else? Now what?
Now what?
And now I know where to send them. This is what he said to me. He took also the books and everything. Now I know exactly that I'm so glad to see that there are those who are dealing with the people. And a lot of people that came to us said to us that the journey started with Rabbi Skobach and Rabbi Singer, and it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And we are putting light of the right path.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I know for me, I came into a Beit Knesset and the Rav was so gracious. He says, "Are you Jewish?" I said, "I'm Christian, but my dad is." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm only talking to that half of you." He was very diplomatic, and I'm so grateful that he didn't, kick me out the door at that moment. And he sat with me and he said, "Well, what are you here for?" I said, "I need to know Hebrew. I need to know if the verses are mistranslated. I need to know what the truth is." And he said, "Okay, sit down, I'll teach you Hebrew," and he met me where he was. And to this day, I'm very grateful because he could have said, "Get out of here, you're a Christian," and he didn't. And today in his Zechutim, I'm sitting here in Eretz Yisrael as a Jew and, returning after 500 years of my family being lost, to the Inquisition in Spain. So I'm very grateful. What do you think the line is in terms of holding our boundaries with other faiths and yet still working with them? What does that look like in terms of kind of collaborating, especially right now, like we're seeing an outpouring of support from the Christian world, and yet that also comes with, missionaries coming into our country. And so what does that look like, do you think, for your perspective of how do we protect Israel, while at the same time being that light and not coming from a place of fear?
It's a great question. I think that all of this session is the most important part, this question, okay, with your permission. And I will explain in a few minutes. I will explain the ideology that we're working in and how we got also a lot of strength from the Arabs in the Emirates, okay?
Okay.
We don't believe in interfaith discussions. Again, we don't believe in interfaith discussions. And and I will explain that. The Hebrew nation, with all of the respect, the Hebrew nation have another dimension that the rest of the world don't have, and we have the dimension of the prophecy. Now, unfortunately, in the last 24 centuries, we don't have the prophecy.
Yeah.
On the other side, we have the Kabbalah people, and in Tzfat you know them. We have the
Yes.
Kabbalah people who is preserving some sort of the, I will say, the prophecy. Now, the prophecy is another dimension in this world. It's another dimension. It's like people who see the world in 2 dimensions, but the people we see in 3 dimensions. The Hebrew nation can see the world in 4 dimensions, not in 3 dimensions only. And because of that, we have what to say to the world. Unfortunately, because we are for the last 2,000 years in exile, we didn't spoke. We were silent,
Yeah.
okay? But now that we came back to our homeland, we don't want to have all sorts of meetings that are not moving us to any side, and we're all eating together some sort of vegetables because we don't really know what we're speaking about.
Okay.
We really believe that we have something to give to the world, and this is our mission, and it's time to give it. Now,
Beautiful.
this also is bringing effect and inside the Hebrew people, because we all know that inside the Hebrew people, there are all sorts of ideas, and some of them believe that we need to listen to what the world have to say to us. And let's bring inside to us all sorts of ideas and values that are not related to the Hebrew nation. And when they will see that a lot of, from the outside of the world, say that we have something to give them, they will start to also to learn and to understand what exactly are the values of the Hebrew nation. When Rabbi Shirky was in the Emirates in the last 2 weeks ago, so one of the things that they told him, stop being, how did they say it? Stop apologize that you here in the Middle East.
Yes.
Stop apologize.
Yes.
And all of those, I will say, interfaith discussions are coming from an apologize side.
Yes.
There is, and we're not there. We have what to say. So we have a lot of times, a lot of big priest people from the Christian world who are coming to us and saying to us, please, they're a bit more or less begging, okay? Please, let's go back to the first 70 years of the Christianity world where we were brothers. I don't know if you know all the history, but in the first 70 years, we prayed together. You know, the Christianity it was one of the...
It was a sect.
It was a sect. It was a sect inside the Hebrew tradition. There were 6 sects, and one of them was the Christians.
Yes.
And we saying to them, no. Since then, there is a differentiation, and the Christian world is supposed to go out from the idolatry. Yes. And the Arab world's supposed to change their war, or the side of the war that they're doing, okay, the jihad side. Yeah. And the Hindu world supposed to change. We have what to say to the world. We have what to say to the world, and we are not afraid. And, the best way of doing this is what we say in Shir HaMa'alot, and I'll quote it in Hebrew, אז יאמרו הגויים, יגדיל השם לעשות עם אלה, יגדיל השם לעשות עמנו, היינו שמחים. Okay? When the world will say that God gave us such a miracle, I will say, situation, we will turn around and we will acknowledge that also. We'll say, hey, he said he did it to us. And this is what we're doing. Part of the main mission, I will say, of the Noahide community, Noahide World Center, is to bring more and more and more people, and also countries around the world, to acknowledge the miracle that the Hebrew nation did repentance, came back to their homelands. And from this point of view, and that they're also demanding from us to give them values, and then the Hebrew people here will start to realize how much we are miraculously and what we have to give, and we'll start to learn what the Hebrew side is. And this is the best way of also fighting against all the Christian missionary and all those things, because everything is coming from the confusion of people who don't open their eyes to realize what exactly is happening here and how we are reading the Bible, not wrong like others.
Right. And I think that comes from, I mean, we've had 2000 years of hiding. You know, I know my family, they had to hide. My family all the way to the 1800s was killed in Mexico for putting on white shirts, or, you know, any implication that we were Jewish. And I think that is the biggest step we can take as Am Yisrael, is stop apologizing for being Am Yisrael. Like, I think that's where we have to be. We have to step into that. You know, I was actually out of the country at the war when the war started, and I decided to come back, and people are like, what do you mean you're going back? There's a war. And I said, that's home. Like, of course, I know who wins the war. Like, there's no point. I'm going home, you know? And so I think as we start to recognize who we are, and we can't be a light if we're constantly covering up that light, you know?
Exactly.
And so I thank you for bringing that piece. I know oftentimes it comes from a place of fear, us wanting to protect, protect Am Yisrael, but we have to stop being afraid. Let me look. I think we have a few questions. Hang on. Beautiful question. So, question for the Rav. They want to know if everybody lived, if the entire world essentially they lived by the 7, mitzvot, what would the world look like? What would we see? What would be the difference that we would see manifested if we followed the 7 mitzvot?
I will give a very simple example, and all of you will be shocked. Okay. Do you know how many people are dying every year from hunger? They don't have enough food. Do you know the numbers? They are being published in the United Nations, more or less. Do you know the numbers?
Probably in the millions, I'm sure. Yeah.
Something like 60 million people. Now,
yeah.
I have another question. Do we have enough food that nobody will die from hunger?
Yes, absolutely.
The answer is yes. We know that, okay? We know that, and we have also some of the Noahide people who said to me that they were driving, food from the factory to the places, and they were supposed to take food and to destroy it. And they were very upset because they said, well, let's give it to the people that are hungry, those who are living on the streets. And they said to them back, don't do that because the price will reduce, So we have enough, but why people are still dying from hunger? The reason is because we have people that are head of countries like Putin, like others, who are putting a lot of money, investing a lot of money for building up missiles and building up a lot of weapons to occupy others. And this will stop. Instead of that, people will start to try to think how to help one each other and to invest by helping. Just to think about this situation. Nobody will die from hunger because we have enough food in this world. And instead of trying to find, to invest in weapons and, armies and to kill others, whatever it is, people will stop doing those things. For example, just for an example, small example, change of the world.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's the beating our swords into plowshares, right? It's shifting into that's Navi. We're going to no longer need to do war. We're going to need to feed each other, and such a beautiful thing. Also, just in courts of justice, right? We would see righteousness everywhere. We would see,
yes. People will feel like families, one with each other. It's much more, it won't be with the war all the time and all those things.
Beautiful. I'm going to ask you one last question to close out for the evening. What do you think the Jewish community needs to know about the Noahide community and how to connect and how to interact with? We've spent 2,000 years kind of closing ourselves off to the world and protecting ourselves from outside. What do you think needs to shift? What of the Jewish world need to know in regards to Noahides and our partnership?
I think that those who are learning Torah needs to go to take the book of the Brit Shalom and start to learn it and to have debates. We have great rabbis who gave us notes on this book. We printed everything, okay? Also the notes against what people think again differently. So I think that those who are learning Torah needs to, first of all, to learn that this is part of the Torah, 100% part of the Torah. Those who are more, other people who are learning less Torah, we'll say it like that, they need to acknowledge that the Hebrew people like the Kuzari is saying in the book, Rabbi Levi, in the Kuzari book, they need to know that the Hebrew people, Hebrew nation, is the heart of the nations. But it's really amazing that some people are confused, but I didn't saw that God puts the Hebrew nation in the Mars and the rest of the world in the earth. He put all of us together. So the reason is very simple. We need to influence on each other. And when people will start to realize that we are not in a situation where we need to disconnect ourselves from others, but we need to, as we said before, we don't need to apologize who we are, but we need to lead the world in the moral side of the world, and that we are part of this world. The Noahide World Center, we are very few people. But if we have today 7 billion people, so we need each Jew here to teach at least 1 million people outside there. So we need all of the people who are supposed to become part of this. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and the prophecy says that each, at the end times that, 10 men from the nations is going to grab onto the tzitzit of every man, right? Every Jew. So we see that happening today. We see people reaching out. I even see, people messaging me, asking me, Christians and people, and just asking questions. How did I get here? I grew up, my parents were pastors, so definitely a different world. So thank you so much, Rabbi, for your time. Is there any contact information or anything for the World Noahide Center you can leave with us?
Yes, I can. There is a site. Okay, the site itself that we have. The site is you can go through the site and you can see us. And then I think through the site you can have everything, and it's not a problem if you want always to. We have on the site, by the way, also my details, but you can leave my details, and I know to, I put the site, the connection of the site, the site link and on the Zoom. But you can also leave my number and give it to people through the WhatsApp. Whoever is contacting us, we know we have people all over the world in all sorts of languages, and we connecting people.
Perfect. And how can the average Jew, maybe living in Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz, get involved with this and help you guys? Is there a need for them to be involved, to help, to teach?
We have always more and more things that people need. We need help, and again through the site or through connection with me, and then I will drive them exactly. There are people who can give. Skills on the computers. We have people who can give skills on leading people. There are people that can give, we have people who are donating their time and giving, teaching people once a week in all sorts of classes. We have a lot of things. Just contact us and we'll drive you to the place where you're most strong and you can feel that you can give and be part of.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Rabbi, for your time. We're going to go ahead and close up. Thank you so much, everyone.
Blessings, everybody. Blessings from Jerusalem. See you all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.